Now I'm going to go ahead and redisplay the rooms list. And in order to redisplay it, since now I'm only looking at those 3 rooms in which the word admin appears, and if I take that, clear out the search value and click on search or press enter, the list will be refreshed with all the spaces for your entire project, sorted by room name. You can also sort by room code if you want to. The room code itself is hyperlinked. The intent of it is so that you can go directly to the master room builder module and be able to see information about the room code itself. So if I go ahead and click on the OFA03 hyperlink there in the Program for Design screen, it's going to open up the second window, jump you right into the project administration section of Room Builder. In other words, it's showing you something that you have selected from within your project that you want to see information about. So it took you directly to the OFA03 Office Administrative Cubicle room definition. You've got now all your design criteria, your architectural information, general, ceiling heights, door widths, floor loads. If you click on materials and finishes, you'll see those. Electrical, medical gases, mechanical design, omni-class if there is one, and any notes that might be appropriate for that room that were provided by the criteria manager that created it. In addition, you have the ability to look at the Assigned Contents tab, which shows you what is considered a standard contents list for an OFA 03 room. Now notice that you're seeing all Navy here under Agency. The reason that is it knows that I'm a Navy civilian that has created looking at a project, but because I'm a Navy civilian, I want to see the standard contents list for an OFA 03 office cubicle. But I can drop the list down and see how other services outfit it as well. So if I wanted to see, gee, how does the VA outfit their OFA 03? I can click on VA, and if there were differences, they would show up in the screen, and you could actually see how what the VA considers standard for this particular room code. If I want to see all the services mixed together, I can click on all, and it'll actually show you all within the list. If you're looking for a particular equipment item or content item, all you have to do is click in the search field. Again, it's going to search both the JSN and the JSN name in order to find whatever value you've keyed into the search block. So if I wanted to see all the chairs that are considered standard for this particular room type, these are the potential chairs that are considered standard for an OFA 03 room. I'll go ahead and click back on the room specifications. Now, let's say I'm looking at the OFA 03, but I really would like to look at some more master room information. I don't want to have to go back to my project and choose something else from my project in order to look at the room specifications associated with another room code. So I can come up here and I can actually remove the search value that was populated by default by clicking on the hyperlink from the Program for Design tab. If I remove that and press enter, I now have the entire master rooms list that I can then click in here and look at any room code that I want to and see the definition for that particular room code. And its standard contents list is needed. Now once you're done with this, you can just click on this link that says close this window, and it'll return you directly to your Program for Design tab, and you can keep on going. Okay. Again, from this screen, some of the other capabilities that are on here. You always have the ability to do a delete all. Again, caution, caution, caution. You can impact your system, your entire project, if you don't know what level you are current at any given time. So right now we're at the project level. If I decide I'm going to delete all rooms in the project, it's going to give you one warning and one warning only. This will delete every room in the entire project. Are you sure you want to proceed? If you do, great. Maybe you just want to reevaluate everything. Maybe you want to start totally fresh. You can certainly do that. But if you don't want to do that, just make sure you say no, and you won't have impacted your program for design at all. Let's talk a bit about construction phases and construction types. You still have the ability to assign individual types and phases by just selecting the drop-down. If I wanted to say that these administrative cubes are going to be all alteration medium, it'll immediately flag that as an outstanding change on your screen, and I can click on Save Changes and say, sure, I just want those admin cubicles to be a different construction type of alteration medium. You can also apply the construction types or construction phases globally as needed, and you can do that typically by using this little globe icon up here. So if I were to go ahead and choose global construction change from the level that I'm sitting at, which is project, I'd be applying a global change of construction type or construction phase to every space within my project. But for this example, let's go ahead and jump down to just reception areas. Let's go and say that we want to change reception areas to be one construction type different from everybody else. So if I'm down at the reception areas level and I'm sitting on the Program for Design tab, I can click on the global construction change, and it's going to pop up and ask me, do I want to make a change to using the construction phases, or do I want to make the change to types? So I'm going to go ahead and click on construction types. And from the type drop-down list, I have the ability to choose any of the types that are available as standard for any project. So I'm going to go ahead and choose number 4, alteration medium, and click on Apply. And it's telling me that I've now applied the alteration medium for the entire reception areas. If I went to cardiology patient areas, they will still be the 0 not assigned, as you can see. So you can also add construction types if you needed to, or add construction phases. So let's go ahead and look at how we do an add of a construction phase and then apply that phase to the reception area so that you can see both sides of the coin. So if I come over here to reception areas, I have to go up to the project level. If I right-click, I can choose this option that says construction phases and types. And this is a screen from which I will make any additions to phases or types, and then any ones that I have added to my project for use, I can change the description as I need to. So in this particular example, it's going to assume that you're going to do a new, but you don't necessarily have to. If you've already created some, you can actually update the description as well. But let's go ahead for this example and create a new phase. So I'll just put in phase 2. You still have the ability to use both numbers and letters and any combination of both for your codes. It's always going to depend on how you decide you want to name your phases and types, as well as user-defined room codes and JSNs, as we've talked about before in SEPS 2. So it's definitely your choice. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and just say code 2 and give it a description that says second phase, and click on Save. So now I've created a second, an additional phase in my project for use. It doesn't leave the screen. It allows you to come back and make a change to the description if you need to. In addition, when it comes to phases, all projects always come in with a phase of 1, but it has no description. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 1 significant and call it first phase and give it a good description so that we can differentiate between phase 1s and phase 2 rooms. Now, if I jump over here to construction type just for information purposes, you are only allowed to add new construction types, and then you'd be able to change descriptions on ones that you have actually added. You'll notice that if I come in here and choose any one of these construction types, which are standard construction types that come with the project, it's grayed out, and it won't allow you to make a modification or deletion of any of those standard construction types. So let's go ahead and close here, and we'll come back to our system. And again, we're still looking at the program for design. And notice that all the construction phases within the program for design list are now have the description of first phase. They were always assigned to phase 1, when I say the number 1, but now it has the description of first phase. Just as we did with the reception areas for changing the construction type, let's go down to the reception areas, and we'll set the entire reception areas to phase 2, or second phase. I can individually select if I want to, but if I want to do it as a whole, we'll use the global icon once more. I'll choose construction phase by default, drop the list down, choose 2, second phase, click the apply button, and now my construction phase for reception areas is changed to second phase. If I go back to another functional area, it should still say 1 first phase, and it does. Okay. Now remember, construction phases and construction types are strictly methods for you to filter your project or report on sections of your project by choosing to include or exclude certain phases and types. It has no bearing whatsoever within SEPS on scheduling, funding, any of those sorts of things. It's strictly a way for you to report information about your program for design. Logically and in the construction world, I understand that a phase and a type certainly has an impact on funding and scheduling. But in SEPS, it just gives you the ability to be able to segregate sections of data and report appropriately on those pieces that are assigned to individual phases and types. Both of these last 2 reports, the Project BIM export to Excel and the Project PACES export to XML, were both requested options that will feed SEPS project data into other systems. The BIM export creates 2 Excel spreadsheets, one that shows a representation of your space plan in its entirety, and the other one is your contents listing of your project in total. Again, Russ, it's probably better if you talk about that and
okay.
Explain it a little bit better than I do.
Could, in the process of me doing that, could you just run the BIM export so they can see what it looks like relative to the project you've got?
Absolutely. That would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, thanks. No worries. Yeah, so for the folks that are on the phone, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but our method of exchange right now to get the information out to other systems, specifically into different BIM platforms, we spent probably 4 years ago now, we spent a good bit of time sitting down with Autodesk and Bentley specifically, asking them how we could get our data out of SEPS into a format that would be easier for them to absorb. And what Lenny's showing you right now is the room content, and really what it is it's a big table of raw data, and we're just finding a way to consistently get the data in a structure in something simple that everybody can work with, which, excuse me, is Excel. Some of the key things in here and some of the improvements we made from 2.7 to 3.0 is in 2.7, we had UIDs, unique identifiers, that were unique within that specific project. We had some issues when we would create a new copy or a new version of that project, as well as there was no guarantee that that UID was going to be unique on anything other than that version of the project. So we went to a globally unique identifier. We pretty much had to do that because we have all the projects. we pretty much had all the projects in one system now. But it's a long number that we don't expect anybody to read, but what it creates is it's a unique line, it's a unique identifier for that line of data, so when we have different computer systems trying to communicate with each other, they can reference this GUID. Now, what Lenny's showing you, the column that's highlighted right now, is the GUID associated with this particular version and the specific line item for that room. But for the next column, column B, she actually has a column in there that shows the original GUID. So when you create a room, it tracks the original GUID for the entire life of that project, no matter how many versions you create. So what that does is if we hand off to a designer and they import it into either a BIM or some other database that they're using to help track the system, and we give them a new version, they can use that original GUID to compare line item to line item without having to do a mapping, which is what we were ending up having to do before we had the BIM exports, and even in 2.7 if we didn't manage the version control properly. To the right of that, we have some other information. I'm not going to go through all the data points, but it's everything that Lenny's been showing you. Again, we do have some UIDs for departments in there that she's showing. We switched that over to a GUID, a GUID, and that's to help, again, in working with industry. They told us that they would like to have some UIDs associated with the department and so forth, but that's what the BIM export is relative to the PFD. I can go into more detail during Q&A if anybody has questions, but if we can just bring up the equipment. Okay, so yeah, I do the same thing. I have to get used to calling it the content. It's the same setup. It's a raw set of data. It's organized in a standard format with the same column names every time we export it. We have a project room GUID here, and what that does is that allows you, basically this creates a relational table set that they can import. They can import the contents data set, and they can import the project room content. And the key to link those two data sets together is that project room GUID. So that tells it how to talk back to the room and the room list and get the room information. Right next to that is the project content GUID, which is the unique identifier for this version of each line of equipment. And then to the right of that in column C is the original GUID. So again, no matter how many times we create a version on this project, we have a way to link the data back to the original version. And all of this, our effort with BIM, for us, BIM really is a tool to help us exchange information across the life cycle. And what we're trying to do is provide a means to feed the information from the planning into design, into construction, into initial outfitting, and then into operations. And the data does evolve over time, but this way we can hand it off and people can spend more time working on updating the data as it develops over time rather than just trying to regenerate the same list that somebody already developed. So that's all I've got, Lenny.
Okay. I'll close this. This last one, Project PACES Export. I'm not sure how helpful this one will be yet, or ultimately we don't know even at all at this point. But PACES is the parametric cost estimating system. We worked with the developers of PACES several years ago with the VA to develop this export strictly for VA projects. As far as I understand, it's not yet been stood up, but the export that they have requested in order to ultimately stand PACES up is ready and waiting for them. In addition, DoD has had similar discussions with the same group to potentially provide something similar for DoD projects as well. So in essence, this is the XML format. It's the export that they've requested if it comes to fruition where the PACES system is actually available for both VA and DoD. So right now, we're not really sure where it is in the process, but it's waiting for them should they choose to use it, put it that way. Alrighty, so that's our reports. There are a couple other things that I really want to point out about the application, a couple things that are a little different with SEPS 3 relating to criteria. I'm going to go ahead and close the reports, come back in here, return back to our project builder. Before we leave project, I guess we don't really need to go anywhere in project builder, but I want to show you a couple of the options within the toolbar, and then we'll go into criteria. From the help menu option, you've got the ability to pull down the user guide. It's quite large, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off and let it start to download while I talk about some of the other things, and hopefully by the time I'm done talking about those things, it'll be ready and I'll pull it up and kind of show it to you on the screen. So let me go ahead and click that off and let it start downloading. This submit a support request is the option for you not to have to return to the dashboard anytime that you want to ask for help for something. So if you click on submit a support request, you get the screen that allows you to enter a summary subject of what the issue is, and then include any details associated with what kind of problem you're having or help that you need. And again, from a technical standpoint, as much detail as you can provide, we are greatly appreciative of all that information. You can't overdo it in our estimation. So as much information as you want to provide, please do. If you have a screenshot that would be helpful in us trying to track down what is causing the issue that you may be having, you would need to actually do that from the dashboard. So once you've submitted it using this screen, I'm going to go ahead and cancel and then just jump over to the dashboard so you can see what I'm talking about. And come into support requests. I'll just add a test, because I'd really like you to see where you can actually add a screenshot if you need to. You would come back into your support request after you've created it. It's now been submitted to the tech support team and is sitting at a status of new, which means a technician hasn't been assigned to address the issue that you've submitted. But if you've got a screenshot, say an error message that has appeared and you've been able to do a screenshot of it, or if you're getting something, let's say you've created a report and you think it has some issue in it, you can either send us the report through this method, but all you have to do is click on Browse, navigate to wherever it is on your system, the actual screenshot or the document, whatever it is that you want to provide to us to help us work out the issue. I'll just choose this one again. It's the one I used earlier. Click on Open. It pre-fills the path to where that file is. Click on Upload. And now we will have a link here. We can actually go in here and read the support request, read the issue that you've got, and click on whatever file it is that you've uploaded, open it, and see what you're seeing, so that so that we have sort of a leg up on being able to start dealing with whatever it is that we need to do to resolve the issue that you're having. So I'll cancel close. It looks like my user guide has been downloaded. It's a PDF file, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, make it a little bit smaller so you can kind of see it. And then as you scroll through the document, it's very large, but it has a lot of screenshots in it. So it should be showing you everything that you can anticipate to see, every error message you may potentially get, every right-click option that you may see within both Project Builder and Criteria Builder. And please use it. It's going to help you quite a bit, I think, as you get familiar with the SEPS 3 system, and hopefully will answer a lot of the questions that you may have, before you get really used to using the application from this point forward. Go ahead and close that. Lastly, under Utilities, you've got this option called My Profile. My profile is all the information that we have about you and has been saved with your account. With SEPS 2 having been decentralized, everybody had the ability to change their profile on their own workstation so that the appropriate information displays on their reports, but it never always got back to us to update in the master database. So I am positive that many of you may have some outdated contact information, maybe outdated email address, maybe outdated, I don't think you'll have an outdated email address anymore, but you may have an outdated phone number, outdated mailing address. So if you go into my profile, there are certain fields in your profile that you have the ability to update, and I would make that one of your first places that you go when you access the system, is actually to get out there and check your profile and update as you need to, because you're actually updating our master listing for you by doing that. So that way all your personal information that needs to go on the front pages of your reports will be updated appropriately. And the only other thing that I want to go through a little bit with you is talking about the criteria administration module a little bit. I think it's really important to kind of review this a little bit. We talk about it a lot during training, but it's one of those things that...
Lenny, could I just interrupt real quick?
Of course.
It seems like somebody's got their phone unmuted, because we've got some feedback coming through, or else up at the top of your screen, there's something that, actually I'm just going to turn my, hold on a second, I'll turn my cursor on so people can see. But up at the top of your screen, there's something that looks like a microphone. If it's green, it means you might have the mic on your computer, and that could be giving us some feedback too.
Should I try again? How's that sound?
Yeah, that actually sounds good.
Okay, great. If it starts again, just yell at me.
Okay, thanks.
So, you know, we go through criteria administration a bit during the training sessions, but we are providing you with so much information during those sessions, it's really hard to really grasp how to go back and find the information that you need that helps you figure out why your space plan is the way it is coming from input data. So I'd like to kind of show you the criteria administration module one more time. It looks a little bit different from SEPS 2, but not tremendously. So let me go ahead and go directly into criteria administration, space criteria builder. And one of the primary differences from SEPS 2 to SEPS 3 is the fact that we no longer combine the DoD and the Department of Veterans Affairs departments together. So you'll notice that there are two options at the top. We've got DoD and VA here. By default, the one that's going to show first is the one that's associated with your system account. So if your profile is associated with Army, Navy, or Air Force, then when you come into criteria administration space criteria builder, the Department of Defense departments are going to be showing first. If you need to see Veterans Affairs ones, all you have to do is click on the Department of Veterans Affairs, and now your VA departments are listed. So that's probably the primary difference between SEPS 2 and SEPS 3 as far as getting access to the individual agency departments. As far as SEPS 3 is concerned, this drop-down is similar to the project drop-down. If you click on it, you've got the entire list to choose from. If you know exactly where you want to go, you just have to filter to it. So let's say I wanted to go to cardio, and this is, of course, we're in VA right now, but we'll go to VA's Cardiovascular Laboratory Service, and then you can click on it, and it filters the list entirely down so it's only one department at a time. So it really is a personal preference how you want to work with this information. Also, by default, you're always going to be looking at the most current released criteria. So you'll notice we've got a date of 6/25/2013. A release of data was actually stood up earlier this week. Has quite a few changes to both DoD and VA departments. It's a good idea if you're creating new projects that you do it in SEPS 3 and not SEPS 2, because you will be using the most updated criteria in SEPS 3 vice trying to do it in SEPS 2. It will stay with the old version of criteria as we've always talked about before. So new projects, it's a good idea to go ahead and start those in SEPS 3. In addition, if you had to see older versions of criteria for whatever reason, you had an old project and you just wanted to see what the old criteria looked like way back when, you could use this drop-down list and actually look at some of the older versions of criteria and see how chapters or departments have evolved over time. So I'm going to go back to the DoD chapters and go into cardio, since that's, again, what we've been working with all day. If I'm at the department level, I can come over here to the criteria tab. And these are all the questions that were presented in the input data worksheet. Again, you have the ability to take a look at each one of those and what the default values are. In addition, just as we looked at within the input data worksheet itself, if I scroll down here and choose the question that we looked at earlier today, will ultrasound services be provided, I can click on the Show Key References icon and it will pull up those statements in which this question is used. And I think if I remember correctly, there was one room criteria statement. It was the XDUSN1 ultrasound room. And it's going to show you the same information that was shown in input data. You just don't have to jump all the way over here to get that information while you are in input data. I'm going to close that. Now let's drill down into the cardiology department. Again, reception areas, I think, did not have any criteria. If there were no input data statements associated with the functional area, the block will be empty. And if we look at the clinic waiting room, which is the one that we worked with quite a bit today, you can see the condition that was created to allow this waiting room to be added to the project. And in this particular case, the waiting room is always added. If this department is added to a project, this waiting room will also be added to the project, assuming that a waiting room is needed when you have this department associated in a project. The variable is not whether you get it, because it states that you will always get it. The variable is what the size is going to be. And you'll notice that it's based on how many FTE cardiologists are projected, how many FTE pulmonologists are projected, and several different equations that determine what the size of the actual waiting room will be. So it's really important, even though some of these equations are simple, some of them are extremely complicated depending on the department that you happen to be in. But again, if you're ever looking for why you either got a room in your project or why you didn't get a room that you expected in your project based on the answers that you provided to input data, this is the place to come to. You can choose any, I'm not sure why my cursor is sort of in a wait state here. I think I need to refresh because it's not. Bear with me, guys. I'm gonna pull it back up again.
Yeah, Lenny, I think you just needed to refresh.
Did I? Well, I tried and it wasn't responding to my refresh option, but.
Oh, you mean?
Up here in the refresh,
yeah. Just so you know, it's reacting on my end, so it may have just timed out for some reason.
Okay. Okay. So let me jump right back down to the clinic waiting again. I just want everybody to understand where they need to go to get the information that helps them understand why their program for design is the way that it is, and getting as familiar as you can with the criteria administration module and being able to navigate and go down to the rooms and look at the conditions and compare them to the hard copy documents. You can pull the actual hard copy documents from the World Class Facilities website for the DoD. You can go up to the TIL for VA. Those would be found under these reference options. Here's your TIL reference. You can find any of the hard copy documents that actually were used to create these equations that generate your space. And here's your World Class Toolkit. For SEPS, you can actually find the space criteria associated with each of the rooms within departments at both places. So please use those in order to get all the knowledge that you need to create the best space plan. And beyond that, I don't think I have much more to cover, Russ. I think I've run out.